A homeless man collapsed outside a bank, but when the CEO saw his face, she froze, because he was supposed to be dead. Before we start, join our YouTube family by subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, let's get into the story. The old man collapsed right outside the glass doors of the bank. No one rushed to help him at first. People noticed. Of course they did. You can't miss a man like that. Thin, shaking, wrapped in layers of worn-out clothes that looked like they hadn't seen soap in years. His gray beard was uneven, his hands trembling as if the cold had soaked into his bones permanently. But they didn't stop. A woman in heels stepped around him without breaking her phone conversation. A young man glanced down, then quickly looked away. Two security guards exchanged looks, hesitant, not because they cared, but because they didn't want trouble. The man groaned softly, his hand stretched toward the door, fingertips barely touching the polished glass, as if it were something distant, unreachable. "Please," his voice cracked. "Just water." The guard finally approached, irritation written across his face. Hey, you can't lie here. Move along." The old man didn't respond immediately. His eyes, clouded but still sharp somewhere deep inside, stared through the glass doors into the building. Something about the way he looked at it didn't match his appearance. It wasn't desperation. It was recognition. "I built this place," he whispered. The guard frowned. "Yeah, sure you did." A few people nearby laughed quietly. The old man tried to push himself up, but his arm gave out. He fell back against the pavement with a dull thud. His breathing became uneven. "Call someone or get him out of here," the second guard muttered. "We can't have this at the entrance." But before they could act, the glass doors slid open. A young woman stepped out, mid-30s, sharp suit, confident posture. The kind of presence that made people instinctively move aside. Her heels clicked against the floor with authority. She stopped the moment she saw him. Something shifted in her expression. Just for a second. A flicker of recognition, or maybe confusion. The guard straightened immediately. "Ma'am, we're handling it." "Just some homeless." "Wait," she said. Her voice was calm, but it cut through everything. She walked closer, slowly, studying the old man's face. The man looked up at her, and for the first time his eyes widened. Not with fear, with disbelief. "Emily?" he whispered. The name hit her like a sudden gust of wind. She froze. The guards exchanged looks again. Now they were confused. "Do you know him?" one asked. Emily didn't answer right away. She crouched down, her gaze locked onto the man's face. Beneath the dirt, beneath the exhaustion, there was something familiar. But it couldn't be. It didn't make sense. "That's impossible," she murmured. The old man let out a weak, almost broken laugh. "Yeah, I thought so too." Her heart began to race. Because the voice, even though it was fragile, cracked, and barely holding together, she had heard it before, years ago, in a completely different life. "Say it again," she said quietly. The man swallowed, struggling to gather enough strength. "Emily Carter." Her breath caught. No one called her that anymore. Not like that. Not with that tone. Not with that history. Her mind raced through memories she hadn't touched in years. Locked doors she had deliberately kept closed. "No," she whispered. "No, you're dead," he finished. Silence fell between them. Even the street noise seemed to fade for a moment. Emily stared at him, her eyes searching desperately for proof that this wasn't real. Because if it was, everything she believed, everything she had built, would collapse. "You disappeared," she said, her voice trembling now despite her control. 10 years ago. There was an investigation. The company—" "I know," he said softly. "I watched it all." Her brows furrowed. "Watched?" A faint, bitter smile touched his lips. "From the outside." The guards shifted awkwardly. "Ma'am, should we call an ambulance, or—" "Yes," she said immediately. without looking away from him. Now, as one of them stepped aside to make the call, Emily leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If this is some kind of joke," she said, her eyes hardening, "it's not funny." The man's expression changed. Not anger, not fear, just quiet exhaustion. "Do I look like I'm joking?" he asked. She didn't answer. Because no, he didn't. He looked like someone who had lost everything. And yet, there was still something there. Something unbroken. Something dangerous. "Why are you here?" she asked. His eyes slowly drifted back to the building behind her. The bank. The towering glass structure reflecting the sky like it owned it. Like it always had. "I didn't come here by accident," he said. Her chest tightened. "Then why?" He looked back at her. And for a brief moment, the broken man disappeared. In his place was someone else. Someone sharper. Someone who didn't belong on the street. "I came back," he said quietly, "to take back what they stole." A chill ran down her spine. "They," she repeated. Before he could answer, the ambulance siren echoed in the distance. But the old man's eyes never left hers, and the next words he spoke made her blood run cold. "They're still inside, Emily, and they don't know I'm alive." She stared at him, frozen between disbelief and something far worse, recognition. Because deep down, a part of her had always suspected the truth was never what it seemed. But if he was right, then the story she had believed for 10 years was a lie, and the people she worked with every single day might be the ones who destroyed him. The ambulance pulled up. Paramedics rushed in. The moment shattered. But as they lifted him onto the stretcher, the old man grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. His grip was weak, but urgent. "Don't trust anyone," he whispered. Her heart skipped. "Especially," his voice cut off as the paramedics pulled him away. "Sir, you need to stay still." Emily stood there, frozen, her pulse pounding in her ears. "Especially who?" she called out. But he didn't answer. His eyes slowly closed as they loaded him into the ambulance. And just before the doors shut, he looked at her one last time. Not like a stranger, not like a beggar, but like someone who knew something she didn't. Something dangerous. The doors slammed shut. The siren roared. And as the ambulance drove away, Emily realized one terrifying thing. If that man was really who he claimed to be, then everything she thought she knew about her own life was about to unravel. But the real question wasn't whether he was telling the truth. It was, what would happen when the people inside that building found out he had come back? The hospital smelled like antiseptic and silence. Emily stood just outside the room, her hand hovering inches from the door. She wasn't afraid of what was inside. She was afraid of what it meant. Through the small glass window, she could see him lying on the bed, motionless, except for the faint rise and fall of his chest, cleaned up now, bandaged, connected to machines that beeped in steady, in different rhythms, without the dirt, without the chaos of the street. He looked older, but also clearer, and that made it worse, because now there was no hiding it. No illusion to cling to. If it really was him, then the past wasn't buried. It had been waiting. She finally pushed the door open. The soft click echoed louder than it should have. A nurse glanced at her. "He's stable. Dehydration, exhaustion, signs of long-term neglect." She hesitated. "Do you know him?" Emily swallowed. "I'm not sure." The nurse gave her a look that said she didn't believe that, then quietly left the room. Now it was just the two of them. Emily stepped closer. Each step felt heavier than the last. Memories kept forcing their way back. Things she had locked away for a decade. A boardroom filled with tension. A name on every headline. A scandal that had swallowed an empire overnight. And at the center of it all, him. Daniel Hayes, founder, visionary, millionaire. The man who had built Carter and Hayes, financial into one of the most powerful institutions in the city. and the same man who vanished the night everything collapsed. Emily reached the side of the bed. Her voice came out quieter than she expected. "You're supposed to be gone," she said. His eyes opened slowly, like he had been waiting for her. "I was," he replied. No confusion, no hesitation, just certainty. Her chest tightened. "That's not possible." A faint smirk appeared on his lips, but it didn't carry humor. "Funny thing about the truth," he said weakly. "It doesn't care what's possible." She crossed her arms, trying to regain control. "Start talking," she said. "Because right now, this looks like either a coincidence or a very elaborate lie." His gaze held hers. "You were there the night it happened," he said. Her breath caught. "Yes. Then you already know it wasn't a coincidence." The room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were closing in. "That night," she said carefully, "you were accused of embezzling millions. Offshore accounts. Fraud. Everything traced back to you." He didn't interrupt. "That evidence didn't come out of nowhere," she added. "There were documents, transactions, witnesses. And you believed it," he said. "It wasn't a question." Emily hesitated. "I believed what I saw." His eyes darkened slightly. "No," he said. "You believed what they showed you." Silence. It stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Emily shook her head. "That doesn't change the fact that you disappeared right after." "Disappeared?" he repeated. A weak laugh escaped him. "Emily, I didn't disappear." He leaned forward slightly, wincing from the effort. "I was erased." Her heart skipped. "That doesn't even make sense." "It will," he said. "Just not yet." She turned away for a moment, running a hand through her hair. This was insane. It had to be. And yet, something about him wasn't lying. "You expect me to believe that everything, the investigation, the board, the authorities, all of it was fake?" she said. "Not fake," he corrected. "Engineered." Her stomach dropped. "By who?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes drifted toward the window, like he was thinking, calculating, or remembering something painful. "Do you still trust them?" he asked suddenly. Emily frowned. "Who?" "The people you work with," he said. "The ones who stepped in after I was gone. The ones who promoted you, protected you, helped you rise." Her expression hardened. "They gave me an opportunity," she said. "I earned everything I have." "I'm not saying you didn't," he replied calmly. "I'm asking if you trust them." She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out, because the truth was, she had never really questioned it. Not deeply. Not like this. Daniel watched her carefully. "They needed someone like you," he said. "Smart, loyal, someone close enough to the truth, but not looking in the right direction." A chill ran down her spine. "That's not true." "Then answer me this," he said, his voice lowering. "Why were you the only one who didn't get investigated?" Her mind froze. The question hit harder than she expected, because she didn't have an answer. Not a real one. She started, then stopped. Daniel leaned back against the pillow, exhausted but focused. "Exactly," he said. The machines beside him beeped steadily. Too steady, like they didn't belong to the chaos building inside her head. "This is ridiculous," Emily said, but her voice lacked conviction now. "If there was something bigger going on, someone would have said something by now." "They did," he said quietly. She looked at him. "Who?" His eyes met hers again, and for the first time, there was fear in them. "Me." The word lingered in the air. "I tried to warn them," he continued. "Tried to stop it before it went too far." "What are you talking about?" she asked. He swallowed hard. "There's a system inside that bank," he said. "Hidden beneath everything. Transactions that don't exist on paper. Accounts that can't be traced. Money moving in ways that no one questions. Because no one sees it." Emily felt her pulse rising. "That's impossible. We have audits. Oversight. Controlled by them," he cut in. Her breathing became shallow. Who are they? She demanded. This time, he answered. The people who run it now. A long silence followed, the weight of his words settling in slowly. Dangerously. Names, she said. Daniel hesitated, and that hesitation spoke louder than anything. You already know them, he said. Her chest tightened. No. He didn't look away. Yes. A knock on the door broke the moment. Both of them turned. A man stepped inside, late 40s. Immaculate suit, calm smile. Too calm. Emily, he said warmly. I heard you were here. Her stomach dropped instantly. Mr. Carter, she said. Her boss, the current CEO, the man who had taken over everything after Daniel vanished. His gaze shifted to the bed, to Daniel, and for a brief second, the smile faded. Just for a second. But Emily saw it. Recognition. Then it came back, smooth, controlled. Well, he said lightly, this is unexpected. Daniel didn't say a word. But his eyes, they changed. Sharp, alert, dangerous. Like a man who had just come face to face with something he had been running from for 10 years. Mr. Carter stepped closer, hands in his pockets. You've caused quite a stir, he said casually. Showing up like this. Emily looked between them, her heart pounding. Do you know each other? She asked slowly. Neither of them answered immediately. The silence stretched, heavy, uncomfortable. And then Daniel spoke. But his voice was different now. Stronger, clearer. You should leave, Emily, he said. Her brows furrowed. What? Now. Mr. Carter chuckled softly. That's not necessary, he said. We're all friends here. Daniel's gaze never left him. No, he said quietly. We're not. The room felt colder, tighter, like something invisible had just snapped into place. Emily's instinct screamed at her that something was very wrong. But before she could react, Mr. Carter took another step forward and said something that made her blood turn to ice. You were supposed to stay gone, Daniel. The words hung in the air like a loaded gun. And in that moment, Emily realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was something much darker, something dangerous. And she was standing right in the middle of it. But what she didn't know yet was that walking away now might be the only chance she had to survive what was coming next. The room went completely still. Not quiet. Still, like even the air itself was waiting to see what would happen next. Emily felt it in her chest. The shift. The moment where everything stopped being normal and started becoming dangerous. Her eyes moved slowly between the two men. Daniel on the bed. Mr. Carter standing calmly near the door. One looked weak, but dangerous. The other looked powerful, but exposed. You were supposed to stay gone, Daniel. The sentence echoed again in her mind. Not surprise, not confusion. Expectation. Emily's voice came out low. Careful. What does that mean? Mr. Carter exhaled softly, as if disappointed. This isn't something you should be involved in, Emily, he said. You've done very well for yourself. Don't complicate things. That tone. Controlled, polished. The same tone he used in boardrooms, in meetings, when closing deals. But now, it felt different. Cold, calculated. Daniel let out a faint laugh from the bed. Still talking like you own people, he said. Mr. Carter's eyes flicked toward him. And you're still making poor decisions, he replied calmly. Showing up here was a mistake. Emily's heart started racing faster. No, she said, stepping slightly forward. No one is leaving until I understand what's going on. Mr. Carter looked at her, really looked at her this time, and for the first time since she met him, he wasn't smiling. You think you want the truth, he said quietly. I do, she replied. He studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Fine. He turned slightly, pacing once like a man deciding how much to reveal. 10 years ago, he began. This company was on the edge of something much bigger. Bigger than legal limits, bigger than oversight. Emily swallowed. What does that mean? It means, he continued, we discovered a way to move money without anyone ever tracing it. Governments, audits, regulators, all blind. Her stomach twisted. That's illegal. It's powerful, he corrected. Daniel's voice cut in. It's theft, control, corruption. Mr. Carter ignored him. We needed it, he said. And it worked. For a while, Emily's mind was spinning. And Daniel? She asked. Mr. Carter looked at him again. He became a problem. Daniel's jaw tightened. I refused to let it continue, he said. I tried to shut it down. And that, Mr. Carter said softly, is why you lost everything. The truth hit like a punch. Emily felt it, not just hearing it, understanding it. You framed him, she whispered. Mr. Carter didn't deny it. We protected the company. You destroyed him, she snapped. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. He had a choice, he said. Stay quiet or disappear. Emily's breath caught. You mean? No, Daniel said firmly. He didn't kill me. Mr. Carter gave a small smile. Death is messy, he said. Disappearance is cleaner. Emily stepped back slightly, overwhelmed. You took everything from him. Dirt. And gave everything to you, Mr. Carter said suddenly. She froze. What? You rose quickly, Emily, he continued. Faster than anyone else. Promotions, access, trust. Her chest tightened. That's because I earned it. Yes, he said. And because you were useful, the words cut deep. Useful? She repeated. Close enough to the system to maintain it, he said. But unaware enough to never question it. Her mind flashed through years of work, late nights, decisions she never fully understood. No, that couldn't be true. I would have noticed, she said weakly. Daniel spoke, his voice steady despite his condition. They hide it well, he said. Layers within layers. Even I didn't see it at first. Emily looked at him, then back at Mr. Carter. Her world was collapsing piece by piece. So what now? She asked quietly. Mr. Carter's expression softened again, but this time it felt like a mask. Now, he said, you walk away. She blinked. What? You leave this room, he said. You forget this ever happened. And your life continues exactly as it is. And him? She asked, nodding toward Daniel. A pause. Then he goes back to being nobody. The weight of that answer settled heavily. Emily looked at Daniel. For the first time, she truly saw him. Not the homeless man, not the fallen millionaire, but the man who had lost everything because he chose to do the right thing. Her heart pounded. This was it. The moment. The choice. Stay safe or stand for something. Mr. Carter watched her carefully. Think about what you're risking, he said. Everything you've built. Everything you have. Daniel didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence said enough. Emily closed her eyes for a brief second, then opened them. Clear. Steady. No, she said. The word landed like a crack in glass. Mr. Carter's expression darkened slightly. No, he repeated. I'm not walking away, she said. Not this time. Silence. Then, a slow, disappointed nod. I was hoping you'd say that, he said. Something about the way he said it made her stomach drop. What does that mean? He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. One call, he said, and this all disappears again. Daniel tensed. Emily! But she stepped forward. No, she said firmly. Not this time. Her voice didn't shake. Not anymore. Mr. Carter studied her, then gave a small, almost impressed smile. You really are like him, he said. And then he made the call. Handle it, he said simply, and hung up. The room fell into silence again. But this time, it wasn't still. It was waiting. Seconds passed. Then, distant footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy. Fast. getting closer. Emily's heart pounded. "What did you do?" she asked. Mr. Carter adjusted his sleeve calmly. "I gave you a chance," he said. "You made your choice." The door handle began to turn. Daniel struggled to sit up. "Emily, listen to me carefully," he said, urgently. Her eyes snapped to him. "There's a file," he said, "hidden inside the system. Everything is there. Proof, transactions, names." Her breath caught. "Where?" But before he could answer, the door swung open. Two men stepped inside. Not hospital staff, not security, something else. And the moment they entered, everything changed. Because Emily realized this wasn't just about truth anymore. This was about survival. And what happened next would decide everything. The moment the door swung open, the air changed. Two men stepped inside. Not doctors, not hospital security. Their movements were too precise, too controlled. One of them closed the door quietly behind them. Click. That sound echoed louder than anything else. Emily's heart slammed against her ribs. Mr. Carter didn't even turn around. "Take him," he said calmly, like he was ordering coffee. Like this was routine, Daniel's eyes locked onto Emily. "Listen to me," he said, his voice urgent despite the weakness. The file, server level, restricted layer, Project Helix. Emily's breath caught. Project Helix. The name hit something in her memory. Something she had seen before, but never questioned. "Stop talking," one of the men said coldly as he stepped forward. Emily moved instinctively. She stepped between them. "No." The word surprised even her. The room froze. Mr. Carter slowly turned his head. "Emily," he said, almost softly, "don't do this." But she didn't move. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. But her feet stayed planted. "You don't get to erase him again," she said. The two men exchanged a glance. One of them reached forward. "Ma'am, step aside." She didn't. "Emily," Mr. Carter's voice hardened now, "this is your last chance." Her mind screamed at her to move, to step away, to survive. But then she looked back at Daniel, at the man who had lost everything because he refused to stay silent. And something inside her settled. "No," she said again. Silence, heavy, final. Mr. Carter exhaled slowly, then nodded. "All right." The man closest to her grabbed her arm. Hard. Pain shot through her shoulder. "Move." "No." But before anything could happen, a voice echoed from the hallway. "Step away from them." Everyone turned. The door burst open again. This time, uniforms. Real ones. Hospital security. And behind them, police. The room exploded into motion. "Hands where we can see them." The two men froze. Mr. Carter didn't move. Not immediately. His eyes shifted to Emily. Just for a second. And in that second, something broke. Not anger. Not fear. Control. "You called them," he said quietly. Emily didn't respond. But she didn't have to. Because the truth was, the moment he stepped into that room, she already knew. While he was talking, while he was explaining, she had slipped her phone into her pocket, pressed one button, and let everything record. Everything. The confession. The system. Daniel. All of it. And then, one silent emergency alert. Mr. Carter let out a small, almost impressed breath. "I underestimated you." The officers moved quickly. The two men were restrained. One struggled. The other stayed still. But all eyes were on Mr. Carter. He slowly raised his hands. For the first time, he didn't look in control. "This isn't over," he said quietly as they approached him. "It is," Emily replied. Their eyes met, and for once, he had nothing to say. They cuffed him, just like that. 10 years of power, gone in seconds. As they led him out, the room felt different. Lighter, but not finished. Not yet. Emily turned back to Daniel. He was breathing hard, but alive, still here. "You did it," he said, his voice almost a whisper. She shook her head. "No," she said. "You did." 10 years ago, tears burned in her eyes, but didn't fall. Not yet. Project Helix, she said. I've seen that name before. Internal access logs? Daniel nodded weakly. It's the core system, he said. Everything runs through it. She took a deep breath, then reached for her phone. Then we shut it down. 3 days later, the headlines exploded. Major financial conspiracy exposed. CEO arrested in multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme. Hidden banking system revealed. Everything came crashing down. Accounts frozen. Executives questioned. The entire structure collapsing piece by piece. And at the center of it all, proof. Daniel's truth. Finally seen. Weeks passed. The city moved on. It always does. But some things don't go back to the way they were. The same bank building stood tall, glass shining in the sunlight, untouched from the outside. But inside, everything had changed. Emily stood near the entrance, watching people walk in and out, normal, unaware of how close everything had come to breaking. She looked down at her phone. A message. Simple. Ready? She turned. Across the street, a man stood. Clean clothes, trimmed hair. Still older. Still marked by everything he had been through. But different. Stronger. Daniel. Not the man he used to be. Not the man he lost. But someone new. Someone rebuilt. Emily walked toward him, each step steady. No hesitation now. You sure about this? She asked. He gave a small smile. No, he said honestly, but it's the right thing. She nodded. That was enough. Together, they turned away from the building, not looking back. Because some things don't need to be reclaimed. They just need to be left behind. As they walked down the street, blending into the city like anyone else, Emily glanced at him. You know, she said, you never actually got your money back. Daniel chuckled softly. Yeah, he said. I noticed. A pause. Then, I got something better. She raised an eyebrow. What? He looked ahead, the sunlight hitting his face. Calm. Free. The truth, he said. They kept walking. Two people who had lost everything, and somehow found something more. But just as they disappeared into the crowd, inside that same towering bank, deep within a locked server room, a single screen flickered back on. A hidden line of code. Still running, still active, and one encrypted file that no one had found yet. Because the truth they uncovered was only part of the system, and the rest was still waiting.